this presentation is such a good presentation. It's even worth it to have people or just continue to invite and have people jump on, even if they have to get on a little bit late, because it's just such a hard-hitting presentation on so many different levels. And if you've already heard this before, it's always good to hear it again. I've already heard this presentation several times, and every time I hear it, I feel like I pick up something new, I pick up something different. As many of you know, I've been in this business now, with this company since 2002. I've been in the financial industry for many, many years. And my decision to take on financial advising and guidance as a career path came in September of 2002. And really my previous experience as a coffee shop owner was just unfulfilling. There was just a lot that left me dissatisfied. And I was always curious about subjects regarding wealth building, insurance, protection, tax strategies, and it really led me to where I am today. Over the course of my career, I've had the opportunity and the pleasure of working with many families in developing a plan for their future. I'm a certified financial educator with the Heartland Institute of Financial Education. And it is my privilege and my pleasure to be doing this presentation today. And on behalf of WealthWave, welcome to our vision presentation. If you have any issues or problems hearing me or with a concept, you can go ahead and jump in. Our attendance is just a little bit more cozy tonight, but it's all good nonetheless. So we're going to get started here. All right, so we're talking here about disrupting the largest industry. And so, well, I think everybody is well aware of the fact that the financial world touches really every aspect, every facet of our lives. And this concept of disrupting the financial industry is something that is so very needed, especially now. And so, why is that? Well, I'm going to zoom in occasionally here so you can see these words. But 2 in 3 Americans worldwide are financially illiterate. This is according to a Gallup poll. And there's a 5-point gap between men and women. So obviously, when you think back at the financial education that you might have received at school, or maybe walking into a bank where you might expect to see some sort of education, you really stop and think that it doesn't really exist. And it's never really been a focus. 66% of us don't understand crucial financial concepts. And when we think about the fact that our finances affect every part of our lives, we realize how people can reach retirement age and never actually be in a position to retire. So people don't understand how compounding interest really works. And I remember when I first got exposed to this company, it was the first thing that really caught my attention. Before I had seen the Rule of 72, which is something I'm going to share with you in a little while, it really captured my imagination. It really caught my attention. And what I realized was financial subjects are not only important, they're also probably pretty simple to understand. And this was an idea that I had never considered prior to coming across this. It's interesting that sex education is required in schools, but why isn't financial education? Financial education is only required in 17 states. I think a lot of people have had this experience. I will never forget the first day of sex ed in my public and elementary school. My parents opted me out. They felt it was a subject that should be taught at home. I was the only child opted out of the entire fifth grade. The teachers sent me to the playground, a very boring place without friends. Wall Street is waking up to a $35.3 trillion opportunity. Millennials are a force to be reckoned with. 1/10 of global wealth, it's about $17 trillion, is held by millennials. According to the BCG, Global Client Discovery Survey, this number is expected to grow to an incredible $35.3 trillion by 2020. So it's clearly a huge opportunity for anybody that's in the wealth management field. Debt is a way of life for most Americans today. According to Ralph Waldo Emerson, a man in debt is so far a slave. Most Americans carry a credit card balance of over $16,000. Over half of Americans can't afford their mortgage without making a major sacrifice. The average American has less than $4,500 in the bank and less than $1,000 in long-term savings. So when we talk about this being such an important topic and an important subject and a crisis, we see the numbers and we see the statistics, and we realize that people have their livelihoods, their freedom stripped away by degree, little by little, because they don't understand basic money concepts. And the evidence is in the proof, right? Is in what we see as averages for savings, $1,000 in long-term savings for most Americans, and that is a reality that we face today. 61% of people are more afraid of outliving their money than dying. So when people are polled, I remember coming across this statistic many years ago, and I remember this statistic being about people who are in retirement or approaching retirement. And I remember being a little taken aback by this idea that they're not concerned about dying as much as they are about outliving their money. You know, when you see an elderly person working at maybe a grocery store or wherever they are, you have to ask yourself, if they had a choice, would they be doing that right now? And for the most part, I would say the answer is no, they wouldn't do that. And they're in a position or a situation that they find themselves in because maybe they weren't taught some of these basic financial concepts. So it used to be that it was really simple. I mean, if you look at a lot of these people, are they really to blame? In other words, if you look at the previous generations, they didn't really think about retirement all that much, yet a lot of them were able to retire. And the reason is because of something called the three-legged stool. Most people, most Americans, had some kind of pension. It was pretty common. 50% of Fortune 500 companies offered traditional defined benefit retirement plans in 1998. But the pension has all but disappeared. You see, what a lot of people thought was that their 401k plan was created by some divine force and that it was your retirement and that was your destiny. But in reality, the 401k plan was never really meant to replace the pension. It just made more sense financially for companies. So pensions, or what's called defined benefit plans, took care of and still take care of quite a few people, but they took care of many Americans. When you combine that with Social Security, when it started, there were 45 workers for every retiree collecting Social Security. Now that ratio is less than 3-1. So we've hopefully heard this on some level. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that it can't hold up, or it's not going to hold up the way it once did. There's just not enough workers. And then when you combine that with poor savings, increasingly the responsibility is shifting to the individual to fund their own retirement and dreams for the future. So the other thing that previous generations automatically did was they did save money. Statistically speaking, they were better savers. So when you combine all these three issues, the fact that pensions have pretty much disappeared, Social Security is in shambles. I mean, there's a serious issue there, and people stopped saving. As a matter of fact, in 2007, before the recession, right? Because people love to blame outside circumstances for their actions, right? So they very easily point to the downturn in the economy. And they might say, well, that's why people don't save. But in 2007, this is before the recession, the savings rate in the United States hit -1%, -1, for the first time since the Great Depression. So what does that tell you? People progressively began to value their possessions rather than the wealth that they were building. It's a systemic problem, but it's a problem nonetheless. I mean, it's a major issue when you consider the fact that people used all three of these things to retire well and maybe not have to think about retirement all that much. Longevity is another issue that a lot of people are waking up to a lot more these days. People are living longer. And how long will your savings last? When the average lifespan was 75 years, retirees only needed their company pension, Social Security, and savings to last 10 years or so. Today, thanks to advances in health and technology, your retirement could be 30 years or more. If personal savings is all you had, how much money would you need in savings? And you think about what this does to stress levels and what those stress levels are going to do eventually to the offspring that are being raised in those types of environments. See, when we talk about these subjects and you hear us get really passionate about it, it's because all you really have to do is connect the dots. And you see that these ripple effects, they span time. And we have an opportunity in this very moment to impact that in a positive way if we take this seriously. So according to Americans, it costs $130,000 to live the American dream. Only 16 million U.S. households, around 1 in 8, earned $130,000 in 2014, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. No state in the U.S. had a combined household of the bottom 99% that averaged more than $62,000 a year. Is this wide gap a result of Americans' poor financial literacy? What do you think? Well, where will people find the tens of thousands of dollars they need to bridge the gap? If you don't build your dream, someone will hire you to build theirs. So here are just a few questions to consider. And while these are rhetorical questions, we also want you to think about the people in your lives. I mean, how many people can look at these questions and really have a shift inside of them? How many people can look at these questions and really start to ask themselves, you know, what can I do differently? And that's where the opportunity lies. Are you financially where you thought you'd be? If you save the same amount in the next 5 years as the last 5 years, will that be acceptable? Is your retirement savings plan on track? Are college funding plans achievable? Does your current career have the horsepower for you to achieve your financial and life goals and dreams? If I could show you a way to win the money game, Would you give it a serious consideration? So here are the ways that we are showing people how they can win the money game. 3 major innovations that enable us to close this gap between Americans and the American dream. First and foremost, it starts with education. Knowledge is power, but it's not actually knowledge that's power. It's applied knowledge that is powerful. By making financial literacy available to everyone, we're empowering the 99% to take control of their finances. Then we have disruptive technology. So either you embrace technology or you get left behind. The writing's on the wall, and you see a lot of people. You see the people that have always been ahead of the curve. That's what you got to pay attention to. You got to look at the people that have always remained ahead of the curve. And it's always the same people who embrace new technology. High-tech touch tools equip our leaders to engage more prospects more effectively, more efficiently. How about being able to market and be in control of your own time? That's what disruptive technology is about. And then financial team building. The economics of financial combined with the scale of team building creates a limitless entrepreneurial scenario. So we're going to go over a couple of these in some more detail. We're going to go into a little bit about what we teach people. So most people would love the idea or the reality of having or building $1 million. So the question is, how do you get there? How do you get there with a modest or even an average income? Well, the average income for a 20-year-old is $2,288. If you started at age 20 and you wanted to reach $1 million by age 65, growing at 8% return, which is pretty reasonable. I mean, if you look at the returns of many investments, 8% is very realistic. And if you're able to do that, you obviously need to save less of your money in order to get to $1 million. So the monthly amount that you would need is about $190, which is about 8% of your income. But what if you wait? What if you wait 20 years? At that point, the average income for a 40-year-old today is about $4,100. You would need to save about $1,000 a month or 25% of your income in order to reach $1 million. So why is this? Why is it that we would need to save more money the less time we have? Interest works in a very peculiar way. As a matter of fact, Albert Einstein, when he discovered this rule of how interest works, it's called the rule of 72, he called it the eighth wonder of the world. And this is one of the main things that really caught my attention. I thought to myself, Albert Einstein wasn't just some guy, right? I mean, he was a person who had a major impact on many aspects of many people's lives. He was a pretty famous scientist. And for him to call this the eighth wonder of the world, I remember thinking to myself, why is this the first time I'm hearing it then? If it was that important to him, it should be something that's taught in grammar school. And by the way, it's something that could easily be understood in grammar school. Yet, you'd be hard-pressed to find it even in college. So this is how it works. If you take the number 72 and you divide it by whatever interest rate that you're making, could be anything. It could be 1% in a bank account, 3% in a CD, whatever it is, the answer that comes out is the approximate number of years it would take for your money to double one time. So let's look at a couple of different scenarios over a 36-year period. Let's look at 3 scenarios and we're going to look at the from the age ranges of 29 to 65, how many times would a one-time lump sum of $10,000 double at varying interest rates? Well, if we applied what we just learned, we ask ourselves, how many times does the number 2 go into the number 72? And the answer is 36 times. That tells you that it will take about 36 years for your money to double one time if you're earning 2%. What if you got 4%? I would say that my common sense, had I not known this rule, would tell me, well, that's got to be $40,000. But interest doesn't work that way. It works it has a compounding effect. And if you double this number, what it means is it shortens the amount of time that your money doubles. And so you won't have, at that point in time, you won't have what you think you have. You have, at 65, you'll have $40,000. But what if you were to get 6%? This tells us that at 6%, our money's doubling every 12 years. So you take the same person, same amount of money, and if before you jump to any conclusions, what you see here, my thinking would be, okay, so would that be 80,000? And the answer is no. It doubles on top of itself in that period of time. This has a tremendous effect on your daily life or how you spend your money if you understand this the way it needs to be understood. 13.8 trillion is in savings in money markets and cash equivalents. So like savings accounts, that's how much money is basically losing to inflation. Money markets and savings accounts are currently averaging 0.14%. So inflation averages around 3.5%. So once in a while I come across people who are pretty comfortable with their bank account, and what they say is, the bank is safe and I know I'm not going to lose my money. And the reality is you are losing, but your loss is actually guaranteed, because at no point in history has inflation been less than around 3%, or it's at the very least averaged between 3 and 4%. So if we don't at least beat that, we're losing to inflation. So here's the S&P 500 since 2000, and we can clearly see that the market goes up and it goes down. And everyone's always trying to figure out, how do you capitalize on the gains, right, and minimize the losses? Well, there are financial tools out there that allow you to do that. But I think the most important thing to note here is that over the long run, the stock market performs very well, but you have to have a long-term view. What if we were able to minimize or even eliminate the negatives of the market? So there are financial tools that exist that have a floor built in to the product or the financial tool. So every time the market goes down, imagine you don't lose any money. But every time the market goes up, you can participate in those gains. Based on what we've been talking about with regard to inflation and how much people desperately need to save money for retirement, do you think this information here could be valuable to a lot of people? So there are financial tools out there that help you to capitalize on the things that you should be capitalizing on. For example, if you operated a farm on which, what would you rather be taxed on? The seed or the harvest. And so when you think about your money, when it comes to being taxed, would you rather be taxed on money that is going in, that we call that seed money, or would you rather be taxed on the entire amount once it's grown? Imagine having access to financial tools that give you the opportunity to be taxed on the seed and not taxed on the harvest. So one of these financial tools that I'm talking about, I'm describing here, some people call it the Swiss Army knife of financial strategies. Imagine having access to financial tools where you can participate in market returns but have zero market risk. Imagine in the same financial strategy being able to have long-term care insurance included. Imagine having that money grow tax deferred, but when you take it out, not having to pay taxes. And imagine now, if you were to die, let's say prematurely, your family would be taken care of by a benefit. So the majority of people are putting their money in traditional type of accounts, and all these accounts or all these investments have their place, and they all have their pros and cons. Like 401ks and IRAs, for example, you got to wait till 59 and a half years old to be able to access that money. But when you do, you're going to be taxed at ordinary income tax rates. The stock market itself fluctuates, as we just discussed. The market goes up and it goes down. And so that means you can lose money, right? There are pros and cons to real estate, as we know in the 2008 debacle. Most people lost a lot of money. But overall, the trend is, pretty steady. And then the bank accounts have their pros and cons, right? We have, liquidity. You can take your money and do what you want with it, but you're also not really growing your money there. Imagine being able to give people benefits and do with their money things that they don't normally do or they didn't even know existed. So we are intent on disrupting the largest industry in the world. Just like some of these companies, which were, majority of them, if not all of them, were pretty much completely non-existent 15 or 20 years ago. And these technology-based companies have come in and disrupted their respective industries. Many companies don't exist as a result of what some of these companies did. And so an example is Uber. The largest taxi service in the world today owns no cars. Airbnb, the largest room booking service, owns no properties. Netflix, the largest entertainment service, owns no theaters. And Alibaba, the largest retail service, owns no inventory. So WealthWave, we're in an industry that happens to be the largest industry in the world. The largest financial literacy company will have no classrooms, employ no teachers, enroll no students, and require no tuition. Your financial literacy site, once a person gets enrolled with us and takes this on as their own mission, they get their own website. And this financial literacy site enables you to make connections anywhere, anytime, with anyone by creating interactive conversations about the basics of how money works. We really want to teach people how money works. Our industry disrupting marketing system includes a digital suite of high-touch and high-tech tools that help you deliver our disruptive vision and mission across North America. Our vision is to disrupt the status quo of the financial industry so families can dream again. We are poised to lead a revolution by redefining the distribution of financial services. Our mission, to protect and build wealth for the families we serve, to increase financial literacy and provide solutions that can deliver more confidence for our clients and associates. Our system, the way we build high touch, high tech, and high volume leaders through innovation. We create disruption with our leadership factory system, opening outlets and moving products simultaneously. So our platforms include the Wealth Wave 360 marketing team, news, training, leadership, recognition. And then we have our How Money Works education platform. Outstand is the company that powers the technology side. Imagine having automated campaigns, email text, websites, apps, TV and video. So World Financial Group is our back office. It helps us with insurance products and things of that nature. And Transamerica Financial Advisors is our securities broker dealer and our registered investment advisor. So we are also in the wealth management business. So if you ever wondered about the size of the financial industry, namely wealth management more specifically, you can see that the financial industry currently has $97 trillion that is being managed constantly compared to real estate. I mean, this is such a vast difference. I think a lot of times they put all their chips on one idea, right? They put all their eggs in one basket, and that's called real estate, and for good reason. It's completely understandable. I mean, maybe it was something that their relatives did, or something that they just understand because they can see it, right? It's tangible to them. But all you have to do is look at the numbers, and you find here that there really isn't any comparison as far as size goes. And then you look at the retail industry, we're looking at $23 trillion. Where does it make the most sense to position yourself? Now, some people might say both. Go for it. But I mean, at the very least, give yourself an opportunity to consider the largest. So this is like I said earlier, what initially attracted me to this business is were some of the concepts that I learned. But what kept me here was an understanding of an amazing business platform. See, what I had been looking for after my previous business experience was not only a way to build passive income, but I wanted multiple ways of building passive income. And I needed to be vested. It needed to be mine. So here are just a couple of examples of some of the different ways that people can participate in this amazing compensation program that we have. Personal income, when you help families, that's you actually enrolling someone in one of our financial services platforms. It could be an insurance case, or it could be a wealth management case. When you do that, you earn a commission. And as you attain certain levels, which is all outlined, it's predetermined, you write your own check, and your income continues to grow. But what about agency income? I think a lot of people out there are very comfortable with selling, and a lot of people aren't. But for those who are, I think one of the things that they never really ask themselves is, do they want to be selling maybe as they approach retirement age? And the answer would be yes. But the question is, do they want to have to sell? And so that's why agency building is such an important concept, because it's about acquiring people and helping them build their business, training them. As you grow your business, you have the opportunity to mentor and coach representatives. As these representatives write new business, you earn a portion of the overall commission, just like a real estate agency or any other financial services company out there. It works the exact same way. The difference is when you bring somebody in, you can actually look them in the eye and say, you can have my exact position. And that's one of the things that really sets us apart. When we talk about expansion income, there are no geographic territories to limit your growth. You can expand anywhere in the United States and in certain US territories. With this growth, there is a potential to earn income from the teams you develop. And then we have bonus income. Qualified leaders can own a pro rata share of an override on the entire field force. Imagine being able to override tens of thousands of people. And that's what really a bonus is all about. Your portion of the bonus can grow based on your organization's production and increase your earning potential. What about recurring income? A big step in your professional growth is becoming an investment advisor representative. With TFA as an IAR, you can offer professional money management to your clients that can provide you with recurring income. And there are a lot of reasons to put some emphasis and pursue this course of action. Thanks to technology and robo-advising and active management, it's easier than ever to get somebody enrolled in sophisticated wealth management scenarios. It's relatively easy to do that. All you have to do is become an investment advisor representative. But did you know that some people get into the financial industry with the intention of only building assets under management, which is what we're describing here, where you earn a percentage of the assets that you place under management? Now think about that. There are people that come into this business with only that in mind. And that's only one of the pieces of the puzzle here in discussing this compensation potential that we have in our company. There has never been a better time to join the financial services industry. So it's your time. Why choose Transamerica Financial Advisors? Well, it's the power of the Transamerica brand. I know that every time I get an opportunity to represent myself as an investment advisor representative, and I say that I'm with Transamerica, I do so with pride. I know that the brand is a very strong brand. Representatives from all walks of life helping families from all walks of life. We are not one of those companies that, thumbs our noses at certain groups of people. It's never been that way. And that was one of the other things that really attracted me to this business. It's this real dedication to building a market that doesn't really exist currently and servicing the one that does exist. That's what creating or building a new industry is all about. It's about being able to educate people and get them involved. And these are people that would have never been involved had it not been for us. A leading independent broker-dealer ranked as #1 broker-dealer for the number of producing female representatives and the #2 broker-dealer for the number of overall female representatives. I mean, that says a lot. We're talking about an industry that historically and traditionally has been dominated by men. And so this is something that we can all be proud of. It's a very progressive type of company. It's progressive thinking. As an independent representative, you have the ability to provide clients with the resources of a large corporation, but with the choice of products and services from multiple well-known providers in the industry. Excellent income earning potential. You're in charge. See, if I wasn't in charge of my own business here, I would not be doing this. Now, how many people do you think feel that exact same or could feel that exact same way? How many people do you think are in a position or in a job that they would kill to get out of, to be in charge of their own time and their own life? Create your own work-life balance. See, one of the things that I've discovered is in not only my own experience, but in helping others to participate and become a part of this platform and this company is once people get an opportunity to create their own work-life balance, to create their own um, uh, job, essentially, um, they shine. Their creativity reaches new levels because they realize it's theirs. An opportunity to help others while helping yourself and your family. The need has never been greater, nor the timing better. You know, the writing is on the wall. People are dying for their freedom. They are sick and tired of the status quo, and they just want something different. And the evidence, again, is in how simple technologies were able to disrupt entire industries. You think about the success of Uber and some of these other companies. As soon as you give people an opportunity or a chance to be independent, they take it. And I think a lot of people would be up for the challenge that the financial industry would bring. So the next steps is really to decide if this is the right option for you. Pick up additional information about us. Definitely want to set up an appointment with the person that invited you to this webinar, and get your questions answered. Questions are good. Questions are healthy. It's only because of the questions that I had when I got started that I became such an advocate, and I became so convicted about what I was doing, because I asked the questions that were important to me at the time. And when I got those questions answered, it was a matter of time before I put an end to my coffee shop. My coffee shop days were numbered once I understood the things that were important to me. So you definitely want to set up an appointment or a time to get some of these questions answered and figure out whether or not this might be the right fit for you within the next 24 to 48 hours. And why do we say this? You know, we have busy lives. And as a matter of fact, as soon as we're done here, all of you are going to go off and do whatever you do. And what's going to happen is 95% of everything I just went over will be forgotten. So your chance, your hope is always in the moment. That 5% is not anything I necessarily said, but it was something that you felt. And that is what we want to act on. Because if we don't act on it, then we're going to keep getting what we're getting. And this is exactly how the majority of the world operates, right? It's the difference between being proactive and being reactive. And so I see a lot of you here are already a part of our company, and this is really our first Monday that we're doing this. But as many of you know, we're going to be doing the vision presentation every Monday at 7:30, and it's just another opportunity for you to disrupt somebody else's life. And I think all of you that are here do realize and understand the kind of impact that you have had and you can have on other people. And I'll leave you with this. If we don't do it, we, with all the tools and the knowledge and the experience, then who will? Everything that we do today has ripple effects, and it carries on. And so we have a duty, and we have a huge opportunity. So that is all. It has been my absolute pleasure